Welcome back to Stay Ahead, the channel that's been building you into a complete cybersecurity auditor one stage at a time. If you have followed along through stage 11, you already know how to plan audits, test controls, and write findings. Today, we finish the roadmap with stage 12, soft skills and stakeholder management. This is the stage that separates an auditor who simply checks boxes from one who influences decisions, drives real change, and earns the trust of leadership. Let's get into it. Auditing is 50% is technical, 50% is people. Here's the truth, every senior auditor learns fast. Auditing is 50% technical, 50% people. You can find every control gap in the environment, but if you can't communicate it, you can't fix it. In this stage, we are covering 10 core capabilities from communication mastery and asking sharp questions all the way through to leadership presence. Keep this slide in mind as a map. We will walk through each of these 10 one at a time with real audit scenarios so you can exactly know how they play out in the field. Communication mastery, specifically a technique called risk translation. Executives don't speak in technical jargon, and honestly, they shouldn't have to. Your job as an auditor is to translate every technical issue into business impact, financial loss, legal exposure, reputational damage, or operational disruption. Look at the contrast on screen. The technical version says MFA is not enabled for admin accounts. MFA stands for multi-factor authentication, verifying someone's identity using two or more methods like a password plus a phone code. That phrase means nothing to a CFO. The executive version says, quote, unauthorized access to admin accounts could let attackers shut down critical systems, causing financial loss and reputational damage. Same finding, completely different level of impact in the room. Here's a real world scenario. You are on the closing meeting with the CFO after a cloud security audit. If you say TLS 1.0 is enabled on your web server, TLS is transport layer security, the protocol that encrypts data moving between a browser and a server. The CFO tunes out, but if you say so, your customer's data can be intercepted in transit because outdated encryption is still in use. That same CFO approves the remediation budget on the spot. That's risk translation. Master it, and every finding you present starts landing. Asking the right question, audit intelligence. Topic 2, this is what I called audit intelligence. Great auditors don't ask more questions than everyone else, they ask sharper ones. Every question should be designed to surface evidence, ownership, or a hidden gap in control design. 5 questions to build into muscle memory. Who approves privileged access? Show me the last time this control failed. What happens if this system goes down? Who owns this risk? And what evidence proves this control actually works? Watch this play out in a real scenario. The auditor asks, who reviews firewall rule changes? IT responds, the network team. The auditor probes further, show me the last approved change. No record gets produced. That's not a technicality, that's a control failure right there in the room, and this is actually one of the most frequently occurring findings in real audits. Firewall change approvals that are described verbally but never evidenced in a ticketing or CAB system. CAB meaning Change Advisory Board, the group responsible for approving IT changes. The fix is straightforward. Route every firewall change through a documented change management workflow with pre-approval, testing, and a post-implementation review. Handling resistance from IT team. Handling resistance from IT teams. Topic 3, handling resistance from IT teams. If you have done even one audit, you already know IT teams don't always welcome you with open arms. Why? They feel judged, they fear blame, they are worried about the extra workload, and sometimes they genuinely believe auditors don't understand the operational reality they work in. The technique here is called collaborative framing. Instead of saying, I need evidence, which sounds like a demand, try, let's work together to validate this control so we can reduce risk. Same request, completely different reception. Here's a real use case. An IT admin says we don't have time for quarterly access reviews. The team is already stretched. Instead of pushing back, the auditor responds, I understand the workload. Let's explore the automating the access review process so your team saves time while the risk is reduced. The result, IT proposes a scripted quarterly export from IAM platform, identity and access management for manager sign off. The control becomes sustainable and the resistance disappears. That's influence without authority, and it's a skill you will use in almost every engagement. Professional skepticism, trust but verify. Topic 4, professional skepticism. This is a mandatory mindset for any auditor: trust but verify. Never accept a claim at face value. Every assertion has to be corroborated with independent, verifiable evidence. Three quick examples: if someone tells you we do quarterly reviews, don't just nod. Ask for the sign off evidence, not a verbal statement. If logs look suspiciously perfect, check the timestamps for gaps or manipulation. And if someone says a policy exists, verify it's actually being followed day to day, not just sitting in a document nobody reads. Here's a real finding that shows exactly why this matters. The claim we patch critical vulnerabilities within 30 days, the auditor's test, show me patch logs for the last 3 months. The result, logs show remediation averaging 90 plus days. How do we classify that? It's an operating effectiveness failure, meaning the control is designed correctly on paper but it's not actually operating as intended. The recommendation: enforce SLA based patch tracking with automated escalation tied to CVSS severity. CVSS is the common vulnerability scoring system. It rates how severe a vulnerability is on a scale from 0 to 10. This is exactly why skepticism isn't rudeness, it's the job. Executive reporting, board level communication. Topic 5, executive reporting. Boards and executives want four things and only four things: business impact, risk level, cost of inaction, and a clear recommendation. A strong executive summary always follows the same 5 step structure: what we audited, what we found, why it matters, what must be done, and the timeline and priority for doing it. Here's an example line straight out of a real executive summary. Three high risk findings could lead to customer data exposure and regulatory penalties. Immediate remediation is recommended within 30 days. Notice no jargon, no control names, just risk and urgency. Now, a real world use case: a SOC 2 readiness audit that system and organization controls. Type 2, a trust services audit report uncovers 12 findings of varying severity. The weak approach is presenting all 12 in technical detail. The board loses focus in the first 5 minutes. The stronger approach: lead with the three highest risk items framed as business risk, summarize the rest in an appendix, and close with one remediation roadmap slide showing owners and dates. Executives remember the story you tell them, not the spreadsheet you hand them. Conflict management, staying calm under pressure. Conflict management. Audits create tensions because findings can feel personal, even when they are never meant to be. The technique is neutral language. Keep the conversation focused on the control gap, not the person. Instead of "you didn't implement MFA," try "MFA is not yet implemented. Let's discuss how we can close this gap." Instead of letting a defensive "this is not my fault" escalate, respond with "I'm not assigning blame. I'm here to help strengthen the control environment." Real world scenario: a developer raises their voice when told the CI CD pipeline, continuous integration, continuous deployment, the automated pipeline that builds, tests, and releases code, lacks a secret scanning gate. The auditor's response: stay calm, lower the pace of your voice, restate the finding as a shared risk, hard coded credentials could be exposed to anyone with repo access, and invite the developer to help co design the fix. Conflict de escalates the moment the auditor stops sounding like an accuser and starts sounding like a partner. Negotiate and influence. Topic 7. Here's the reality: auditors almost never have the formal authority to force a team to change anything. Influence comes from making the risk visible and undeniable. The technique is risk based negotiation. If a team resists implementing a control, don't insist. Show them the risk of inaction in concrete terms. For example, if we don't restrict admin access, attackers could shut down production systems. Real use case: the SOC team, the Security Operations Center, the team that monitors and responds to threats, refuses to implement new detection rules, citing alert fatigue. The auditor's influence approach brings three data points to the table: gaps against the Maitri attack framework, a knowledge base of real world attacker tactics and techniques, recent attack trends in the organization's industry, and quantified business impact of an undetected breach. The outcome: the SOC team agrees to a phased rollout of the highest priority rules first. That's influence, not authority or evidence. Topic 8 of 10: Writing high impact findings, Big Four style. Topic 8: Writing high impact findings. A good finding is clear, concise, actionable, and risk focused, and every single one follows the same five-part structure: condition, what was actually observed; criteria, the standard or policy it should meet; cause, why the gap exists; consequence, the risk it creates; and recommendation, what must be done to fix it. Let's walk through a worked example. Condition: no MFA enforced for admin accounts. Criteria: ISO IEC 27001 Annex A 9.4.2, the international standard for information security management systems, requires strong authentication methods for privileged access. Cause: misconfiguration during the initial identity provider rollout. Consequence: high risk of unauthorized access to privileged accounts. Recommendation: enforce MFA for all administrator accounts within 30 days and validate through an identity provider policy export. Memorize this five-part structure. Every finding you'll ever write in a Big Four caliber report follows this exact skeleton. Field reference: frequently occurring findings across real audits. This next slide is one to pass and screenshot. It's a field reference of the findings that shows up again and again across real cybersecurity audits. No MFA on privileged or admin accounts. The risk is account takeover and lateral movement. The fix is enforcing MFA organization wide for all privileged access. Access reviews: perform but not evidence. The risk is you can't prove a control operation to auditors or regulators. The fix is retaining signed sign off logs from the IAM platform every cycle. Patched SLAs breached: a 30-day target that turns into 90 plus days actual. The risk is exploitation of known CVEs. The fix is automating SLA tracking tied to CVSS severity with escalation on breach. SLA, by the way, stands for service level agreement, a committed target. Firewall and change approvals left undocumented. The risk is unauthorized or unreviewed network changes. The fix is routing every change through a CAB approved ticketing workflow. Terminated employees retaining system access. The risk is insider threat and unauthorized data access. The fix is automating deprovisioning tied directly to the HR offboarding trigger. An encryption in transit not enforced, like still allowing TLS 1.0. The risk is data interception and regulatory exposure. The fix is upgrading to TLS 1.2 or higher and disabling legacy protocols. If you only take one slide away from this video to keep on your desk, make it this one. Time management, audit efficiency. Topic 9: time management. Auditors are constantly juggling evidence requests, interviews, testing, and reporting all at once. Sitting idle while you wait on one evidence request is the fastest way to fall behind schedule. The technique is parallel workstream. While waiting on one piece of evidence, a Big Four caliber auditor keeps three lanes moving at the same time, testing other in scope controls, documenting findings that are already substantiated, and drafting report sections that don't depend on the pending evidence. Real world use case: a cloud team takes 4 business days to export IAM policy configurations for a SOC 2 audit. The inefficient auditor sits idle waiting for the export and falls behind schedule. The efficient auditor uses those 4 days to complete encryption and logging walkthroughs, draft the executive summary skeleton, and prep interview questions for the next control area, closing the audit exactly on schedule. Same 4 days, completely different outcome, and that's the difference time management makes. Leadership presence, senior auditor behavior. Topic 10, our final topic, leadership presence. Regardless of your title, senior auditors project confidence, neutrality, and a solution oriented mindset in every single interaction. Five behavioral traits to build: speak calmly under pressure, maintain steady eye contact, use structured communication, avoid jargon with executives, and be assertive without losing respect for the other person. Here's the scenario that shows why this matters. ACTO challenges are finding in front of the entire leadership, calling it irrelevant. A junior reaction gets defensive, argues back, and loses credibility in the room. A senior auditor does something different, passes, acknowledges the CTO's perspective, calmly restates the evidence and framework criteria, and offers to walk through the work papers offline. The result, the room trusts the auditor's judgment and the finding stands. Presence isn't about winning the argument in the room, it's about earning the trust that makes your findings stick. Reference, glossary, acronyms, and jargons used in this stage. Before we wrap up, a quick glossary slide. Every acronym we used today define in one line so you can pause and reference it anytime. MFA, multi-factor authentication. TLS, transport layer security. The international standard for information security management system is ISO IEC 27001. SOC 2 is system and organization controls. Type 2, a trust service audit report. IAM, Identity and Access Management, CAB, Change Advisory Board, Maitri Attack, a knowledge base of real world adversary tactics and techniques. SOC as a team, Security Operations Center, CVSS, Common Vulnerability Scoring System, CI/CD, Continuous Integration, Continuous Deployment, SLA, Service Level Agreement, and CTO and CFO, Chief Technology Officer and Chief Financial Officer. Keep this slide handy, you will see these terms in almost every audit engagement you run. Closing, all 12 stages complete. And that's a wrap. All 12 stages of the Stay Ahead Cybersecurity Auditor Mastery series complete. So what's next? I've got 4 parts. I can take this series in: a full 12-week mastery program; B, a job interview preparation kit with real questions and answers; C, an end-to-end audit simulation you can follow along with; or D, a portfolio builder to help you showcase everything you have learned. Drop a comment and tell me which one you want next. And if this series has helped you build real audit skills, hit subscribe on Stay Ahead so you don't miss it. And a big thank you to today's sponsor, Audity.site, for supporting this episode. See you in the next one.